Welcome to Impact Innovators at the Fireside, where today I am joined by Raphael Rubens, the CEO and co-founder of MemoMate. Here's the thing with AI. We're all just trying to figure out how to make AI actually useful. And here is one particularly practical approach. Raphael's grandparents were Holocaust survivors, and he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to capture their stories. So he decided to do something about it and build his own interviewing AI agent, I guess, and had it interact with his grandmother. And that experiment actually worked out pretty well. So as a follow-up, he decided to move into an American senior living community for 2 months to try and understand how he could help elderly and elderly care with AI applications. He lived there, he ate there, he experienced firsthand all the things that the elderly in the community were actually experiencing themselves as well. So I think that is quite extraordinary for a founder to go that deep into the customer base. He started with life story biographies, but then very quickly discovered the real problem, which is staff drowning in paperwork. So with their new AI assistant, MemoMate is now pivoting towards a broader application, taking away administrative stuff from the staff so they can focus on something like, human connection. And I think this is a great application of AI solving for one of society's biggest challenges. And it's a great demonstration of a founder starting by listening to what people really need. I hope you enjoy this conversation. Raphael Rubens, you are the CEO and co-founder of MemoMate.
Correct.
Please do explain the problem that you're working on with the business.
Yes. It just started from an angle that, first of all, I really loved listening to the stories that my grandparents were telling me about anything, about their life. I thought they were very interesting people. And as a family, because they were both Holocaust survivors, they have been through a lot. They were in camps, in ghettos, in hiding, you name it. And as a family, we were always very, eager to write these stories down. But we were kind of like lazy, or not lazy. It's just like, okay, we'll do it next time when we visit them. And then unfortunately, my grandfather passed away.
He was very young during the war, I suppose.
Yeah, he was born in 1929, so He was like 13 or something.
13, so
He had active memories.
Oh my goodness! When you're a teenager,
So he was from Romania, and he was from a part of Romania where the Nazis weren't into power. The Romanian government was into power. So from the area where he was, they didn't deport him, but he got kicked out of school and all of these stuff. And these were the things that he remembered vividly. But my grandmother was from another part of Romania where they deported them. And she was also in a ghetto, etc. She was born in 1935, so she was like 6 years old when it started. Yeah. So she has memories of how they got them out, like how they took them out of the house, how they put them on the trains. Her little brother her mom was pregnant at that time, so her little brother was even born in that camp where they were. Yeah. But that history always played a role. I mean, there was no normal dinner where they didn't speak about it, so they were very open about it. Some people tend to not speak about it at all, and they were pretty open about it. Anyway, so after my grandfather passed away, finally I got this sense of urgency where I said, okay, I need to do something now. And then my grandmother also came to me and said, hey, I want to write this story down. Can you help me? And I'm a good talker, but I'm not a good writer. So then I was Googling. I said, well, let's hire a biographer or something. And that was very expensive. It was more than 10,000 euros. So I was looking for a solution, and then the whole Gen AI.
So you actually had this conversation with her?
Yeah.
Like what, at the kitchen table, like?
Yeah. So I often told her like, hey, I want to film you how you tell your story. And often when she was telling her story, even without her knowing, I would just record it, because I already saw that I might not have the opportunity to actually sit with her and like write it down, because she's like very paranoid with these stuff. She didn't like others to know about it, and she immediately thought, oh, if I'm gonna write a book, who else is gonna see it? I don't want anyone else to see it. Like she was very she's still like very paranoid with this type of stuff. It's also something from the war.
Is it paranoia, or is it like, sometimes elderly people, I remember my own grandparents, they didn't want to bore us with the details, or like, you have your life, don't worry so much about what happened in the past. But at the same time, they did want to share the story.
Yeah, so well, good point. I think it's a combination of both, and probably they prefer to just share it informally, but not in a formal setting where we're sitting and
like this.
writing it down, like this, basically. Before we actually started with the biographies, after my grandfather passed away, I wanted to create like a memorial website for him. I thought about building a Facebook for dead people, because I saw that like in the next 10 years, like 60 or 70% of the people will get cremated. And I thought that cemeteries will become less relevant then, so people will look for alternative ways to commemorate.
Digital way.
In a digital way. And that's also something on how I jumped in this market. Somebody that I knew owned a bunch of funeral homes in America, in Chicago. And I called this guy. I said, I have this idea about Facebook for dead people. I wanna sell this to funeral homes. Can I see like how you're working? So yeah, come to my house. And I just joined him for a week as a funeral director.
Okay.
And then I saw, okay, people are not going to spend any money on like a memorial website or something, mainly because the sense of urgency isn't there anymore. Because once somebody passes away, they're not really incentivized to put some money or effort in memorializing them. It's over, it's in their memory. And that's where I made the step, hey, maybe we should like focus more on the biographies, because that's more like a living person and people are just freaked out by death. So that's why I said, okay, that was kind of like a failure, I guess, but I learned from it. And all of these things, they added up to where I am right now.
So unfortunately, your grandfather passed away.
Yeah.
Then your grandmother had this conversation with you, and she said, "Hey, I want to capture my life story. Can you help me do it?"
Yeah. So I downloaded ChatGPT on the iPad of my grandmother, and she's very tech savvy. And I created a very simple prompt saying, "Act as a very empathic autobiographer. Be patient. Ask questions about at least topic A, B, C, D, and ask follow-up questions where needed," something like that. And I gave this iPad to my grandmother, and she was having like fun conversations with it. And she lived abroad, so I visited her again in a few months later. Then I saw all of the conversations that they had.
And she was using the keyboard?
Yeah, she was using at that time ChatGPT didn't have the voice things. She was just like keywords. She was like typing. And then I came back, and then I just said, I saw all of these conversations, said convert this into a 10,000 word autobiography, and like that I had it. So I thought, oh, this is pretty cool. And at that time, there was a hackathon about improving the well-being of elderly, and I participated in that hackathon. And funnily enough, one of the judges was the CTO of Microsoft for Startups. And I remember pitching this to him. He was also in that judge. And like I had a few times eye contact with him, and then we became second in that hackathon. And I had a brief conversation with him, and he said, "I voted for you because a few things. First of all, in Gen AI, you only see the use case where people are asking questions to the AI. And this is the first time that I'm seeing that the AI is asking questions to the people." And he found that very interesting. And then another thing what he found very interesting was that you're seeing all over the news how bad AI for people is, like for younger people can be, about fake news, about younger people are editing their pictures to look skinnier or whatsoever. But there's barely any research about the good things about AI when it comes to elderly people. And when I got this affirmation or confirmation from him, I said, okay, I should continue working on this. And then what I did together with my co-founder, I knew this elderly home in my area, and I gathered a group of like 10, 20 elderly, and I said, I have this idea, try it out. And it was like MVP minus. It was barely a working product. And they were like kind of doing it. It wasn't working perfectly, of course, but there was some traction there, like people liked it. And people were saying, hey, this is so nice because it helps me to remember things. Yeah. And I thought this quote was very interesting. It helps me to remember things. So I thought maybe there might be some how do you say it? Some positive benefits when it comes to memory and cognition.
So just because they were interacting
Yeah,
with the GPT.
they were like, "Oh my God, I forgot about this story," and
Uh-huh.
and they were, and he asked me this question about how
Right.
I felt, and I completely forgot about it. Oh, this is so nice. This is what people were telling me. They weren't necessarily happy with, like, the product was far from perfect, but it gave them a good feeling, and I thought this is enough for now. And that was kind of like the bridge to this mini pilot.
You did your first pilot with
Yeah.
this.
So the
That's
pilot was before we got
yeah,
funding.
yeah. And then you started building.
So then we started building, and then now it gets even crazier because in this program, like, it was an accelerator program actually, like, it's called Birdhouse. One of, like, the top people over there is this Belgian guy that started to sell software to senior living communities in America. And he's a very nice, energetic guy, and we connected, and he basically gave me this idea, like, man, you should sell this to senior living communities in America. Like, that's where the market is. And he also sells software to senior living communities, and he told me that not him but his colleague, like 8 years ago or something, moved into a senior living community in San Francisco or something and lived there for 1 year to just understand what's going on. And he says, you should do the same, man.
Okay, so that's because you told me that you went undercover, not your words, but
No, I didn't go. Like, I didn't have any cover. I was myself.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm getting there. So he gave me this idea, and he says, like, don't you know anyone that has senior living communities or something in America? And I had a friend. He was also my neighbor, and his family are like in real estate, and they owned a whole chain of senior living communities. So we were like,
that's a nice way in.
and we were a little bit like drunk on a party, and I said, hey, I have this idea and about an AI autobiographer, and I want to sell this to senior living community. Is your family involved in senior living by any chance? He said, of course, my uncle, he owns a few senior living communities. I'll introduce you to him. He sent an email and introduced me to his uncle. Like, it's like a 30-year-old family business. They have like 8 locations in Massachusetts and Providence, Rhode Island. I had a Zoom call with him, and I said, I have this idea, and don't judge me. I want to live in the senior living community of yours for 2 months.
Experience what it is to be an elderly living in a community like that.
And also trying to, I also wanted to, because there's early feedback that I got about that it helped me to remember things, etc. I wanted to validate this in a more clinical setting where people are actually living there. It was very impulsive, everything, and then that was confirmed, and they basically said, okay, this is a specific location where people are relatively young, and we know that they're into technology, so go there for as long as you want. I wanted to see what people are doing in the day-to-day, what kind of activities do they have, how is their technology usage, how is the interaction between staff and residents. I just wanted to learn, and the director was super nice. I was sitting next to him, and I was doing it on my laptop, and I noticed that they were like touching the laptop screen.
Oh, right. Yeah. Like an iPad.
Like an iPad. And then I noticed, okay, I need to buy an iPad. They're not familiar with laptops. So I bought an iPad, and that's how they were navigating it. And this was working very, very well. And I was there for a few weeks, and I felt
but they were interacting. They were interacting using a keyboard.
So initially keyboard, and then that went very horrible. And then my co-founder very quickly built like this speech-to-text mechanism. So they just had to press a button, and they would record and then press send. And that's how it kind of evolved. We literally, like, after one day, I gave like a briefing to my co-founder and said, hey, these were the things that didn't go well, build this. And then next day he would build it, and then we would like literally iterate from that. But
if I can just say something about this, I really like the fact that you went to one of these communities and you lived there for like 2 months, right?
Crazy,
to kind of submerge yourself, become one of them, so to speak, and then you did this research. So I mean, I'm not sure every startup founder does that, right? Actually, going that deep into your user base, that was a big investment from your side to do that.
Yes and no.
But you learned a ton, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. So it was an investment. Yeah, like not a lot of people would say I'm going to move into a senior living community, but with these things, I'm kind of like super impulsive. I just went for it. I didn't think too much about it, and I just thought I'd rather go there for 1 or 2 months and see quickly if this works or not, instead of just sitting 8 months behind my desk and wait and sending cold emails and hoping for things to happen.
Sure.
So it was, I would rather say the opposite. It saved me a lot of time.
Right. Yeah. Interesting.
So that's how I approached it.
So let's talk a little bit about the what you learned from that experience.
So what I learned from it, first of all, I think from an anthropological point of view, I just learned a lot about myself and these people. And what I saw is when I was having this conversation with them, is that one of the biggest problems for these people is that they don't feel relevant anymore. They're basically put into this retirement home, and it's beautiful. They have a chef, they have a gym, they have a pool, but they're not really relevant. That's how they feel, and that's basically what I learned. And I said, okay, well, how can I make
AI? You could solve for that.
Not entirely, but I felt that I gave them a good time, or at least that the AI was able to give them a good time. So that was enough for me.
All right, so let's fast forward a little bit, because this was all with MemoMate when you were capturing these live stories, right? And then what happened?
So while I was there, I noticed that staff members were coming to me, were approaching me and said, "Oh, it's so nice that you're doing that and that you're giving them some attention, because we don't have time anymore for this. The only thing we're doing is just filling in stupid reports and doing administrative tasks. And I wish I could have some more like interactions with them." And that was pretty interesting, but at that time I was too focused on the biography, so I kind of ignored it, and I was just focusing biography. And then we had a deal with them. We would pick 2 locations of this chain, and they would use our biography tool, and we gave them a ridiculously low price. Because I just wanted to show validation, people want to pay for it. But it was like, I was running after them for months to just wire me a few $100s. And then I saw that they were paying me, and we also got some other customers along the line, and they were paying me, but there wasn't much usage. Yeah. And I say, hey, you're paying me, but there is not much usage. What's going on here? Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, the residents, they have too much. They need too much help. They forget their password. They forget their email. Their browser isn't updated, and we don't have the staff available to help them. We have this huge staff shortage.
Oh, I see. So they had difficulty actually using your system.
Yeah, these staff members don't know much more about technology than the residents. Right. These are people like.
So you needed to dump down the technology.
Yeah, and it wasn't solving a real problem for them. Because biographies, it's so nice, beautiful that you can write a story, but in the end, the payer is the senior living community, and in the end, they're thinking, okay, is this going to make money for me, or is this going to reduce the workload on my staff? Right. And if it doesn't touch one of these 2 categories, it's automatically a nice to have, and there's no real motivation for that.
There's no willingness to pay for it.
Well, there was a willingness to pay, but I think in retrospect they just thought like it's a nice guy. He was there for okay, good, we'll help him. But there wasn't a genuine motivation actually from them to use it.
Right. So you went to search for alternative use cases.
Exactly. So I spoke to them. We said, okay, like what problem can we actually solve for you? And I had very open communication with them. They were very nice to me. And then there were a few use cases. And what I saw. The big trends that I saw is that, hey, since COVID, they had to digitize very rapidly. For instance, they had to invest in telehealth, visiting doctors via Zoom instead of going to the hospital. Registration systems. Whenever somebody had to visit their grandpa or grandma in this community, they had to register, not on a piece of paper because that's not hygienical. They have to do it like on an iPad. So and they were like going to that direction a little bit. And what I also saw is that many of these senior living communities, they were getting reimbursed by Medicare and Medicaid, like some components, and Medicare and Medicaid were also increasingly asking for more information about their operations. For instance, whenever a nurse comes in to a room to chat, and whenever a nurse comes in a room of a resident, they have to ask at least 5 questions. Did you eat? Did you wash? Did you take your medications? Yeah. And it happens that a nurse forgets to ask that question, or she just doesn't want to. And then in the end of the year, they Medicare, Medicaid is checking all of these information, and they're saying, hey, your nurse didn't ask this question a few times, so I want my money back. Please wire me $2 million back. And that's a big problem. So these organizations are trying to figure out how to be compliant and how to basically prepare for this digital age. And this combined with the fact that now there's also this new influx of baby boomers entering that are very relatively tech savvy, and they just don't want to play bingo every day. They have to come up with some personalized services. And one of the use cases that I saw is that they were required by law, it depends by state, but approximately 70% of the states in America are required to do surveys with staff members, with residents. And then I asked this community where I was staying in, I said, hey, how do you guys do that? And one director said, yeah, we do it by mail. I said, what do you mean? And he showed me like this literally this mail that they sent. And they said, yeah, but nobody responds. Because I thought, yeah, who's going to, first of all, who's going to fill in a survey? And second of all, who's going to go to the post office and send it back? Then another community I was working with, they said, yeah, we have an employee, they knock on every door. Hey, John, can you please fill in the survey for me? And a few hundred people live there, so they have to knock on like a few hundred doors, distribute the surveys, collect the surveys. Then they have a pile of like 200-300 surveys with, I don't know, multiple choice questions. It's like impossible to analyze it. So then they manually entry all of the data in an Excel sheet. It takes them weeks. And then we saw at the same time that when you look at all of the data of the market research, they say, yeah, elderly, 90% of them has a smartphone. So I thought, oh, they're all tech savvy. But then I found out, yeah, they have a smartphone because they're just only smartphones on the market. They use their smartphone only for calling, and that's the max. Some use for YouTube or something, most calling. Then we said, okay, with the biography, let's just get rid of all the user interface for logging in. Let's just call them.
Okay. Yeah.
And then we saw some incredible engagement.
So the AI calls them.
Yeah, the AI called the residents and interviewed them. Tell me about your life. Where were you born? What's the name of your parents? And we saw that people were speaking for 40 minutes with the AI, and they knew it was an AI.
Okay, so this is still the same concept. You're interviewing them.
Yeah, so we were starting to interview them over the phone. Sorry, I didn't touch upon that. So we were interviewing them over the phone for their biographies, and that led to some more engagement. And then we heard about the survey process, and we said, hey, it's basically interviewing as well, but it's just a change of a prompt.
It's a survey. Yeah.
It's a survey. And instead of asking them about their life story, we asked them about their experiences here in the senior living community. Yeah. And then for the first time ever, we said, okay, let's do this mini pilot again for a survey. We need zero interference from your staff. And then they're already happy when they hear this. Only thing you need from you is an Excel list of the names of the residents and their phone numbers, and inform them that they're getting called. So we did that. We literally had a response rate of like 95%. And they were giving incredible insights. So instead of giving the directors just in data such as people are satisfied with the food 3 out of 5, we said, we transcribed everything what the user was saying. We assigned a score to it and gave reasons why. So we said, John doesn't like the food because there's not enough vegetarian options, the food is cold, and the staff smells bad. And we give this on individual level, and that's important for the chef to know. But then we could also give them aggregated levels, like, hey, 70% of your residents don't like the food, and these are the main reasons why. And these are the main recommendations that we can give to you in order to improve.
So you started with this idea of recording a life journey, and that was based on a technology with an iPad, and people used a keyboard, and then gradually that turned into a phone interaction, and then you figured out this other use case for the surveys,
exactly,
which is a way for you to generate revenue, because that's something that the community homes would be interested in. So what's MemoMate? Is MemoMate this live recording thing? Is it the use case, the survey use case? Is it like all?
MemoMate is an AI assistant for elder care organizations.
Right, and you're expanding with a number of use cases.
Yes. And the interesting thing is that I don't even have to look for new use cases. They come to me with new use cases. Yeah. Another example is now we have a new customer in Boca Raton, in next to Miami. And they were required by law to have a physical comment box on the reception desk. So when people are not satisfied, they leave a note in this box. And then the receptionist there is like, I don't know, 500 people live there. She's busy all the time, like trying to understand what people are writing because the handwriting is not clear. And then she's writing down she's kind of typing over what the people are saying in this little note. And then she has to distribute it to the people where it's relevant for. So I didn't like the food. Okay, this has to go to the chef, et cetera, et cetera. And then they told me, can we just have a comment box over the phone? I said, yeah. And then they are just calling our number because we can call them, but they can also call us. And they can just leave a comment.
And what I like about it, what I love about it, is that you can maintain this historical track record, right? Because if I would have given feedback 3 months ago about the food, then I'm sure the AI can ask me again about the food today, whether it has improved.
Because they're officially also required to conduct mitigation plans after they do such a survey, and that they always failed doing that because it wasn't organized, and they would just hear it in the hallways, not really in an organized way. It's a ton of work. And we can just do quality assurance. We say, hey, last month, like the director says now to the chef, hey, the food, 70% of people say the food is cold. In 2 months, I'm going to check this again, and it has to be better. And then we just call the people again and say, hey, did it improve? Yes, no.
So with your technology, you're improving the life of the senior inhabitants of these community homes. Also, you're improving the work-life balance of the staff, right? You're helping the staff do a better job and and they don't have to spend that much time on administration.
Yeah, because that's a big problem also, because they also saw since COVID that there is a very high turnover of staff. And now comes a whole new use case. Hey, we can also do staff surveys and we can identify which staff members are about to churn, and we know some information about their personality, what they like, what they dislike, and we can come up with personalized incentive plans on how to keep them. So that's a whole other use case. And that's a great thing about generative AI with this new wave that we're riding, that you can build completely different companies with a change of a prompt.
So what about the double-edged nature of technology? This all sounds great, but very quickly, people may push back and say, you're not decreasing loneliness. You're actually increasing loneliness because there's a reduction of human interaction by having people interact with AIs.
I would say the opposite. I say, first of all, AI will never be a replacement for human interaction. What our use case is that we see that in healthcare and also in other business, but especially healthcare because it's such a human-centered business, the staff members are dealing with so much bureaucracy and so much paperwork that they don't have time anymore for the human element. So we are saying, hey, we leverage AI to streamline these boring administrative bureaucratic tasks so that the staff members can do what they're good at, and that's these human elements. So I would turn it around.
Hey, Raphael, how's the company doing?
Good. It's doing, good. I guess. Like as an entrepreneur, you probably also understand that one day you think to yourself, "What the fuck am I doing?" And the other day you feel super energetic and exciting. And now I'm on this wave that I'm feeling very excited, and I think that we're finally seeing some traction, mainly because we're starting to shift to. At least we're not forgetting about the biographies, but the biographies is not our main product. It's just a feature, and we're right now seeing. That we're closing deals and that people are telling us, hey, this is saving us time, this is saving us money, and it's just way easier suddenly. Like it's way easier to get calls with people. It's easier to schedule follow-up meetings, and we have a very nice pipeline of companies that want to work with us. And the only thing that's stopping us at this point, or at least that it's a challenge, is that sales cycles are just very, very long in this industry, from 6 months to 18 months. And it's always the race between the runway versus the pipeline. So, but overall, like we signed a very nice deal a few days ago, and very happy.
And deal for you is, I assume, it's an elderly home, or it's like a
So it's
A number of them, a group.
ideally a chain.
You're selling to a chain.
Yeah. So ideally, we're targeting chains first of all in the right geographic location, so in a location where they are required to do these surveys by law, and then I'm also trying to find out. So I know in which states it is required, and I'm looking in which state is the highest concentration of senior living communities, and that's what I'm trying to focus on.
So let's fast forward a little bit. So you mentioned the year 2040. And I did a little bit of math in my head. By 2040, I will be 72. So I'll be in your demographic.
There's still time.
So I envision myself being a user, a consumer of your set of products, probably by that time. What's that going to be like? What's MemoMate in 2040?
So in a very abstract way, we really see ourselves becoming the AI assistant for elderly/elder care organizations.
Right.
That's the very high level. And if we're drilling this down, I just see from my experience working there, living there, is that there's a lot of these processes that are just so time consuming. Right now I'm focusing on these surveys, but then there's also, for instance, admissions, which means like onboarding of a new resident. And what they have to do is that they have to collect so many documents from doctors, from lawyers, and they have to do a whole interview of that person.
All of that administration.
Yeah, I really see myself as this very boring AI assistant that's going to streamline all these stupid administrative tasks so that these people can focus on what matters, which is human interaction and making sure that these people are feeling happy and good about themselves, both staff members and these residents. And then you can, of course, extrapolate this to other verticals.
You know, what I'm seeing you do or talk about is how you very deeply invested in this demographic, the user base. And you went inside that community to experience what they would experience, and you started looking for use cases right there, right? And then you pivoted from the original use case to this new use case. So you're very actively searching for the right problem within this target audience, which I think is very admirable. Thank you so much, Rafael. This was incredibly insightful.
Thank you.
All the best.
Thank you for having me.
Cheers.
Thanks for joining us at the Fireside today. If you enjoyed this conversation, please spread the word. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Substack, or on www.impactinnovators.com. By subscribing, you help me continue bringing these important conversations to light. And if you know someone I should be talking to, please shoot me a message on LinkedIn. Join us next time as we continue to explore how technology can help solve humanity's greatest challenges.